Waldorf salad-ish today and for most of the week because I have a lot of apples to use up.
Waldorf fat.
Show you this tree. I should point it up there just to show you right now.
The apple tree?
Yeah.
How loaded it is, eh?
It's so loaded. I'll try to get it from a less sunny angle. So many apples up there. Anyway, we're going to be talking about the post-American world again, and James has another book he wants to talk about. But he's going to be eating. I brought out this bread that's like a taco. We were given it.
Is it a type of naan bread?
I don't know what it is. But see, the thing is I have been. Today we went to the grocery store, to the superstore, to get some food, but
they weren't super duper prices, you were saying.
No, but I got some romaine lettuce, which I normally don't eat. But
well, it's good to get a variety.
And celery was a good price, so I got a bunch of celery. Well, 3 bunches.
Yeah, maybe someone just heard, keep the salaries low, and then, who knows?
And when I saw the celery, I thought, well, that's great, because I have a whole bunch of apples. And the Waldorf salad, if you are a fan of Faulty Towers, you know it's celery, apples, walnuts, grapes. And well, it's a little more complicated than that, but not much.
Sounds pretty healthy, really. How does it taste? Pretty good?
Yeah. Well, you'll see. You have yours too.
I'm eating the fish before the wasps and the flies get to it. They're congregating over where you cook this stuff, you know. Haven't found this out. They got inside of the porch in there. I swear they can smell it in the porch. When that airtight.
Yeah,
they're on the inside looking out.
Every fly and wasp in Lethbridge just went over to where I was cooking it. Because when the weather is warm, I have taken to cooking outside.
Yeah.
And I think most people do that. Barbecue or whatever.
They do a lot of it, I think. Some of the only cooking, I think, that takes place nowadays in the average household.
Anyway. So you're just eating the fish like that? You're not eating it inside the bread?
Well, I've got to watch for the bones, right? I don't want to choke, particularly on camera.
Yeah,
People
this morning
might find that a little traumatic.
I had some bread like that that's shaped like a taco. And I filled it really thick, full of salmon.
Yeah. And?
Salmon fillet.
What happened to that salmon? I didn't see it.
Hannaford ate it.
Yeah. Hannaford got to
stole it off your plate.
Yeah. She's probably pretty full right now. She usually is most of the time. Anyway. Excuse me. Yeah.
Yes, Hannaford likes food a lot.
A little too much.
She has an eating disorder. She's a very big girl.
She's been fixed, so.
That wasn't my choice. She had an infection. She had to get fixed.
We had to go after her innards. It was amazing she survived that. Weren't you reading somewhere that the condition she had was generally not life-threatening, but life-taking? But she's beaten the odds a couple of times. When she was just born, she didn't have enough strength to
drink. So I had to hold Paris's tiny little nipple and put it in Hannaford's tiny little mouth.
I thought for sure
and
she was
repeatedly, I just stayed up for I don't know how long. I think it was 3 days. I didn't
Yeah.
sleep. And I just kept doing that. And, you know, she'd take a little drink and then she'd, you know, lose it again. It was,
She
was
had
so
hardly
weak.
enough strength to just hold herself up or whatever, you know, like her head up. And she was the smallest of the litter. Was she the last or second last? I think she was the smallest.
Second last, but she was the smallest one. She ended up being the biggest.
Huge, big monster for a hard Chihuahua. She has a Chihuahua personality.
She's pretty grumpy.
Yeah. You lift her up into bed or on the sofa, she'll growl at you.
Yeah, parents wanted to let her die. She actually kicked her away.
She didn't want to, but she's going,
Yeah,
okay, I got to kind of save my resources for something that's a bit more promising.
Yeah, maybe that's it.
Paris
Anyway,
is a good mother.
She was a very good mother. I mean, she's too old now. Now she has cataracts. She walks into walls and stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, I was talking about Confucianism, how it discourages new ideas, it promotes stagnation.
Sadly, it's true.
The Western path promoted new ideas. It's why the Western powers rose ahead.
Okay, so what I say is it really should be called not the West, but the rest. What they did was they took ideas from all over the world and innovated on those ideas. That's never emphasized. But what they're saying is so different. No. It's taken ideas particularly from the East and also from India. Both of those basically via the Muslim world. And just said, okay, we'll make those ours. That option was open to all sorts of people around the world, and they decided not to exercise that option.
Unfortunately, because the idea makers weren't protected by our leaders and the entrepreneurs were favored, those types from other countries are profiting off our idea makers, who our aggressive types have been parasitizing. Change patents so the idea makers own their ideas for life. Entrepreneurs can rent the ideas for the first few years, encourage production through profit, and new technology keeps inspiring new ideas. Also, since the ideas are only rented, this will keep entrepreneurs from buying others' ideas in order to submarine the new technology, so the entrepreneurs can hold power through stagnation.
Now, this isn't Fareed Zakaria's idea. This is your idea. It's pretty good.
This is mine.
Fareed's
Example,
not that original.
cars run on other fuel types. James is talking about the Indian space program. I wrote this down because you would have been talking about that at the time while we were listening to it. Because it used to frustrate me. I'd be watching some or listening to some nonfiction, whatever, something that I was interested in, and James would start talking. But anyway, so I wrote this down. James is talking about the Indian space program and how all of these countries declare independence and then have their hands out. Then he switched
Both hands.
to a Muslim lawyer protecting Muslim rights in South Africa. What are they doing there, and what rights do they have? He says.
I'm not talking about here, and I'm not talking about
caliphate in Turkey. Where does the rule of the caliphate end? Muhammad said that Islam doesn't stop at the borders of Arabia. It goes on and on. In India, the Muslims, wanted to be ruled from Turkey.
Yeah.
Gandhi was supporting the Muslim caliphate. They kicked the English out and said to the Muslim empire, come in and control us. The native rulers in India before the Brits went in weren't actually native at all. They were Mughals, Persian. Brits were...
they would be... Mughals means Mongol.
Oh.
Okay, so they're Mongols, but a lot of them were, they brought in Persian as kind of like a semi-official or official language. And a lot of Persians came in. They were exploiting. A lot of, Turks came in exploiting. A lot of Afghans came in, and they tended to be the shock troops for the movement. But they'd be exploiting, particularly plundering and raping.
Brits were there for trade, not to imperialize.
Well, it depends what you mean by imperialization, but they were there mainly to trade. They weren't there to rape and plunder, frankly.
Churchill said about Hindus, they're beastly people with a beastly religion. We call the native people untouchables, and most of their people are put in the Shudra class and are almost untouchables. That's beastly. To do that to fellow human beings, Nehru calling Churchill racist for saying that is assholish.
No, he was such an idiot. There he was chumming around with one of the world's worst killers, Mao Zedong. And he's got problems with Winston Churchill. I got problems with Winston Churchill. I suspect he was a racist too, in the narrow meaning of the term, not the generalized meaning nowadays, which is amongst the Pogoshes. Hey man, I disagree with what you're saying.
Charitable deed done in secret, not out in public?
What was that?
I don't know. I don't know what I was doing there, because that doesn't seem to be going from anywhere. It says second to last disc, track 2. Don't pray where you can be seen. Do it in private. Don't use repetition. It's vain. Forgive men their trespasses.
Well, I think it's in vain.
Fast, don't look sad. Anoint head.
Or in front of people, that's vain. Hey, look at me, I'm
private?
worshiping. What was that?
I have no idea. I don't think this has anything to do with this book. I don't know why I wrote this notes on this page, because I don't know. God, yet the Catholics made the Pope infallible 1870.
That's not moving.
Mustard seed
pretty
isn't
recent.
the smallest seed and doesn't grow in a tree, big tree for birds to nest into. So what was the actual seed?
So we'd be talking about a parable from the New Testament about the mustard seed being so small.
I don't know what this was from, because it doesn't seem like it was from this. I don't know what I was doing there.
Well, I mean, it's
writing down some other notes on this book.
I mean, the parables are a little more interesting than just someone getting up in the bully pulpit and gibbering and jabbering.
Oh, I think I was just wondering about some stuff, and I just wrote it down on this page. I was probably just wondering about it.
Sure.
Anyway. Fareed Zakaria said that Buddhism isn't in India, where it originated, because it was somehow absorbed into Hinduism. He says it wasn't
That's
booted
garbage.
from India.
What would he know? What was that?
He says it wasn't booted from India.
Well, what does he know? He comes from the Muslim side of things, and frankly, what does he care? Here's what an expert on Islam said about the end of Buddhism. What ended it in India? Islam. Eh? Not someone who's got a PhD in religious studies. Islam ended it.
Okay.
He himself does not. He said to me, kind of in confidence, it wasn't in front of anyone else, he disliked Buddhism. He considered it, he didn't have so much trouble with Hinduism, but he disliked it. So you see, there are things worse, apparently, or at least some Muslims, one, and then polytheism, because at least that's worshipping several gods, so that's worshipping a god. In Buddhism, he said, was atheistic. And he didn't like it because it didn't acknowledge any god. You can imagine when he thinks of me. And you can really imagine when he thinks of atheists. I'm just an agnostic.
All right.
I understand he's a Sufi. He's supposed to be one of the enlightened.
Track 11, 10, question mark, desk 6. He says that immigration is essential in Europe and the U.S. It is not.
What
Earlier,
the?
he had been
Fareed,
talking
you
about
stupid
the
talking head.
superior education system of the U.S. to elsewhere. People from other countries should not be offered immigration. They should be given work visas, and as part of the work benefit package, they and their families have access to the public health care and the public education system of the host country. That way their children will be better off and trained in the culture of the host country, so they are more likely to be successfully incorporated into the host country's culture. Zakaria had mentioned that Europe was having problems incorporating immigrants. Should that be blamed on Europeans? Why should Europeans have to
Immigrants
adapt
are having
to the
trouble.
cultural problems of their guests? If the children of those with work visas have proven themselves a fit for the society they have been living in, they can apply for citizenship there. Otherwise, they will be returning to their country of citizenship. No anchor children. Childbirth will have to occur in embassy hospitals, and that will need to be constructed to solve this problem. And they will, people who are returning, if they don't qualify for citizenship, they'll still be better off than other children that were from their country of origin, because of the access to the healthcare and the education system of the host country. So this is what needs to happen. This needs to change. If you're coming into a country and you're like, oh, I'm going to get citizenship. No, you should get a work visa. That's it. If you want to be moving into a different country for the sake of your children, then that's great. Because then they will get the education system, they will get the healthcare, and they will have a chance to qualify for citizenship once they become legal age, which I think should be 25, not 18, 25. And education should go right up until that point. So,
and that's paid by the state, right?
By the state, by the country.
I think it should be required at least up to age 20.
So,
and not age 18 even. I just want to make the point about Europe. What he's saying for Zakaria, it should be bringing people in. Europe is not overpopulated. It's extremely overpopulated. Every country, some way more than others. Holland, the Netherlands, has 8-10% Muslim population. What the hey? It was extremely overpopulated before that influx. No, absolutely not. And I'm telling you, every place in the world is overpopulated. That includes the United States. That includes Canada with these huge, wide, open spaces. These huge, wide, open spaces can't support a huge number of people. People are going to have to handle their overpopulation problems, which are their very, very own, on their own. We're not going to spill out of Bangladesh and Pakistan and Afghanistan, which is in the news nowadays, because of their own irresponsibility. The world is overpopulated. We've got to start bringing the population down, not just holding it. We've got to not just flatten the curve, as they've been saying about COVID. We've got to bring the numbers down severely. The world was overpopulated when I was a kid, and that was a long time ago, but not that long ago. I'm just barely a senior. It was something like 3 billion when I was a kid, maybe around 1960. It's now 7.8 billion. That's more than twice as much. When I was born, it might be before I die, and that might not be too far down the road. It'll be 3 times what I was when I was born. What's that about? It's gone up 1.8 billion since 9/11. That's 20 years. What does another 20 years hold? Am I going to be around to see it? It's insane. And no one's talking about it except here. No one's talking about it. Especially amongst the faux gauches, because, oh, it's people of color that are doing that. It's not just people of color. It's Hutterites, it's Mennonites, Mormons, and, you know, Hutterites and Mennonites are kind of not that well off. But Mormons, someone once said, and I think it's relatively truthful, if you look at it on the whole, there's some poor Mormons. The Mormons have the big bucks. They also have the big families. Irresponsible. It's not a matter of color. But guess what? People aren't born with genes. They make them have color and make them have bigger families. To say that or suggest that is racist, you faux gauches. We keep hearing that these other cultures, as they would, know all about sustainability. The key to sustainability is having at most a stable population. With the world population as it is now, sustainability means a decrease, a significant decrease in the world population. We can yip and yap all we want about global warming and cutting back on carbon and all that sort of stuff. That would just be buying time. Ultimately, if population keeps increasing and we give up on all carbon burning, we're still going to run out of resources. So it's a red herring. To be talking about global warming and stuff like that, it's a red herring. You're going to have global warming even if you stop. You realize if you stop burning all carbon, because what's going to happen is every tree is going to get ripped up.
Yeah.
To create farmland.
Yep.
Every tree. You know, that's part of the formula. Of course, some of it's just going to be there'll be carbon burning that way. You know, for to keep people warm and for cooking. So if you got that, you faux gauches, stop the faux gauchery and stop yipping and yapping about that. You have got to deal with the real problem, which is overpopulation.
Yep. And so
if you're not going to talk about that, I know you are fakers.
When people get citizenship, when people get the work visas to come into other countries, they shouldn't be discriminated if they, you know, against how many children perhaps that they have. They can still have the work visas. But perhaps there should be a limit, you know, so, okay, you shouldn't have 10 or something like that. I don't know.
Well, I mean, if they're tapping into the resources here,
yeah,
there should be a limit. No more than 2. If you want to come someplace else from where you're from, you can control yourself one way or another and have only 2 kids.
Okay. But if or maybe they can come at 18 and have children or whatever. I don't know. But that'll require some thought.
Exactly right. All of this does.
When people apply for citizenship, so the children of the people with the work visas, who they reach 25, if they've already had 3 children, they get no citizenship. They can't have 3 children and get citizenship.
We want to move elsewhere. Don't have so many kids.
Mm-hmm.
Jesus. It's simple.
Anyway, you had a book you wanted to look at.
Okay. Well, I've already finished looking at it, but maybe I want other people to look at it. Got time? 5 minutes?
Yeah, you're right. Mm-hmm. You were paying attention this time. I wasn't.
Anyway. This is Kazakh. the complete course for beginners. Batayeva is the person who wrote it, and when did I start this? I think it was the 29th of August. Yeah, and I've just finished it at just before 4 o'clock this morning, so I stashed it away in less than 6 days. And when it says a complete course, it wouldn't be the equivalent of
You're going through stuff fast now.
I can. The equivalent of a university course. Not so much fast. I just pound it down. Like I was doing probably more than full-time work. Like 8 hours a day.
I saw you.
Exactly.
But it's incredible how fast you can go through a language now.
Exactly right. So one of the things is the more you learn, well, there's some people who do it. I know a huge whack of languages, or I'm acquainted, I should say. I don't want to. There are people who know all sorts of languages other than English. I mean, to the point where they can exercise all 4 functions, not just reading. That's what I stress, but also writing and listening and speaking.
Yeah, I suppose.
So there are people. As Eric Clapton once said, when someone was praising his guitar stylings, he said, "There's always someone better than you. There's always someone better than you." And like there was Jimi Hendrix, better when it comes to some things than.
How's that nectar?
Eric Clapton. It's pretty good. Anyway, there's always someone better than you. So there are lots of people, actually, not a huge whack of people, but a fair number, who are way better at languages than I am. But you see, like, that's not my specialty. My specialty is what I use the languages for.
He's amazing at languages.
Well, I like to use them for ancient history or studying religion. And it's not just the regular religions, like the dominant religions. It's the ones that are really marginalized. Not Islam. Islam's not marginalized. Wake up and smell the coffee. It's the Yazidis, the people that were getting ethnically cleansed / at least borderline genocided by ISIS. They're marginalized. Wake up and smell the coffee, you idiots. You faux gauches going around saying Muslims are marginalized. Jesus Christ. Make me sick. But at any rate, this does not come recommended. If you can get it used, then for Pete's sake, don't buy it new.
So it wasn't money well spent for you, hey?
Not really.
That's too bad.
At any rate, it's fairly good. The dictionary is a real problem here. I don't know why they have it. It's really a glossary, which is, it should be every word that appears in the text. They don't recommend a dictionary, as I recall. Like, you shouldn't really need a dictionary for a beginner's course. What you should be able to do is every word that's in the exercises and stuff like that should be in the glossary. You can just go back and forth and stuff like that, right? If you have to. The best thing to do is just try to memorize the suckers, but there's always going to be something you haven't been able to memorize. So I had some problems with this one, more than I have in most beginners' things. So
yeah.
And it's not really, like, I would not use this as a university text, I don't think. It might be the only thing available, I don't know, of this size. It's about 300 pages long and stuff like that. But I have this here. You folks who think you know more about Islam,